Red Purple Luffy versus Reiju. We are in an in-between meta right now. This is 7.5, so Law is banned, Stage is banned, but we're not in 08 territory yet. So we've got this sweet little week or a half so here where I've got a few locals where I can play some 7.5, and that is when Red Purple Luffy gets to come out to play. One of the hardest matches for Red Purple Luffy was in fact Red Purple Law, just because Red Purple Law can flood the board really fast, and with the amount of improvements that deck's gotten, they can swing 6Ks pretty easily. Which can be pretty scary for Luffy here. We've also trying out the new card holder here. This is my hand holder, so everybody can see what's going on at all times. No more incessant shuffling, so we can get a sneak peek of what's in the hand as we play things here. Reiju, honestly, is kind of a scary matchup, especially for this play that Reiju's potentially about to do here. Kind of afraid of a potential Ichiji coming down here because they do have the porch on their 3-Don turn. Reiju did end up taking the play from me, which is fine. I actually don't mind going second with Red Purple Luffy. I can kind of go either, right? If I see the Zoros early, like going on the first curve, then I can get a little aggressive and still ramp. But if I go on my second curve, it's going to guarantee that I get to 9-Don on my 4th turn. Regardless of if I ramp or not, we do end up finding a Zorojuro. And luckily, Reiju does not go heavy aggressive. Reiju can be pretty fast of a deck, especially if they see Ichiji very early. Ichiji's a 7k, so pretty easy swings into my life. I would potentially have to use just 2ks to get out of it, but it puts a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on my hand here. Just gonna go ahead and play out a Zorojuro. We attack 7k, just get an easy block out of the Reiju and then play a Zorojuro here. With my hand here, I'm kind of just leaning up towards protecting myself and then playing out like a dragon just to swing face, and then try to use the Gear 5 Luffy to finish the game. The typical mindset of this deck is just go as aggressive as possible, right? It's a ramp deck that just wants to hit face and play cards that prevent your opponent from hitting your face. So, you know, already being a 6k leader does make turns pretty awkward for the opponent. They have to spin Don and their 5ks to potentially threaten me here. That's a 6k attack at lead here. I'm likely okay with taking this. Typically, you know, even though Luffy is a 3-life leader, the first one is kind of free, but because I know what this deck is all about, I am going to try to take the moments I can to protect my life when I can. I do have, you know, a good amount of counter in hand, but we're going to go ahead and just take that hit there. I don't mind going to 2 because this deck does run Radical Beam, and Radical Beam is not turned on until you're at 2 or less life, which is pretty great here. Opponent's going to go ahead and just play out a Reiju. You're going to go ahead and draw 3 cards, kind of nutty. So they're back up to 5 cards in hand and then 4 life still. So I'm just going to keep trying to pressure my opponent. I'm going to try to pressure with at least 7Ks from lead, just so I can ensure that I'm getting at least a 2K 1 count of hand or they're taking a hit. So we're going to go up to the nice little 6-Don here. Zorojuro can attack freely and just like do no damage and ramp me one because I'm at 3 or less life just immediately as soon as this leader comes into play. So I could potentially just like swing it to get to 7-Don if I needed to use 7-Don, but I do not have the Eustace Captain Kid this turn, which is our premier 7-drop, which basically sets my leader up to a 7k lead for both turn cycles. So instead we're just going to send 5. We're going to ramp back up to 6-Don here. We're at 7 technically, but 6 is available to use here. And we're likely just going to play out a Sanji blocker here. We're just going to go ahead and attack. Try to clear board a little bit. I typically want to be aggressive, but I know in this matchup I do need to handle board a little bit while also continuing to push face, because ultimately they can kill me a lot faster than I can kill them in these situations, especially if they keep seeing Reijus to keep refilling their hand, right, giving them more and more 2Ks, which again we just saw 2 2Ks out of their hand, likely what they drew. Opponent here gonna go ahead and use the stage and start doing some nonsense with it. Does find an Ichiji that is scary. Ichijis are annoying. This deck, Red Purple Luffy, does not like have a great way to take care of like big threats, right? We don't really have any removal. Our only removal is really Newgate, right? So Newgate comes down, he can KO I think it's a 3,000 or less character on attack, which will kind of help us clean up those small blockers like Chopper. But for the most part, we don't have a lot of great ways to KO big threats, so that Ichiji is just going to come down and just keep poking us, and it's going to be pretty annoying. Opponent does play the Porsche into the Ichiji, and now we're feeling kind of sad here because that Ichiji is going to come down. It's going to be a 7k. I do have the 2k to get out of it, right? Because I don't think I want to go to 1 at this point. I do need to be in a situation where I can win game, right? So opponent's going to go ahead and slap down the negative 2k on my blocker. And then likely going to send the 7k at my lead here. But we'll see what else they decide. Gonna go ahead and try to take out Zorojuro. Zorojuro's already kind of done his job for me, right? I am gonna be at 9 Dawn next turn. I can use my Luffy leader ability to go up to 10, so I'm fine with letting that exchange happen. Don't think it's worth keeping on board at this point, as I just kind of want to get into the big threats and keep countering my hand as much as I can. 6k at lead here, so likely what's gonna happen is we're gonna get like a 6k, another 6k from lead, and then a 7k from lead here. So I give him the Zorojuro from hand. 7k at lead, we're just going to give him the 2k for Nosuke. And then likely what could happen here is just a 7k again. Okay, opponent instead decides to go for likely a Reiju. Nope, this is a Chopper. So Chopper's going to come down, regroup some Dawn. Again, me being at a 6k leader just kind of like sets up these awkward situations where sometimes the opponent just can't attack with a character because they just don't have the Dawn to commit to it, which is pretty nice. So we do find the Newgate. Newgate, honestly, kind of what I wanted to see at this turn. Newgate is amazing in this deck. If you do not run Newgate in this deck, you're doing something wrong, because being an 8k leader, it's very strong, but just Newgate also being a 10k character that can also like pop things instantly, right? So that Chopper blocker is just like it's feeling the terror if I drop a Newgate, right? Because they know next turn that Chopper blocker is doing nothing. So I'm gonna go ahead and play out the Newgate here, leave 1 Dawn up to threaten a potential Radical Beam, which this deck does run. We're going to use a nice little counter. Also flipped over the card. I don't know if you saw that. I flipped over the leader. This is my alt, my custom alt from Atakai TCG. Check them out. If you haven't heard of them, I'll throw a link in the description. Pretty cool guy. But yeah, Newgate takes me up to a nice little 8k, which is going to stifle a lot of my opponent's aggression. They're only going to go up to, what, they have 5 Dawn on the board. They're going to go up to 7 Dawn. So they're going to have to commit 3 Dawn to each of their 5ks. Which means they can really only effectively get like an 8k, an 8k, and an 8k with each EG with that amount of Dawn. So I'm expected to see potentially 3 8k swings next turn, and I have a blocker up. And I think we're just gonna go. We're gonna go here. We're gonna actually Diable Jambe, our leader here, and we're gonna swing 8k at Porsche. Yeah, I just want to kind of clear the board a little bit, because I know next turn that Newgate's just gonna be able to pop that Chopper. So, like, I know, yes, some Reiju lists run Queen. If they do play Queen, it's a little sad, right? That's what Diable Jambe is for. It's for those decks that run a bunch of, like, heavy cost blockers. But because right now, the information I have is, like, if they just tap out and play a Queen this turn, I'm not upset. Because likely what they're going to have to replace is either one of their 5Ks or the Chopper, right? So, it is what it is. And I don't know if a lot of Reiju decks even run Queen these days, because they had just the Chopper, right? Queen was a nice way to fill up the hand, trigger Reiju, and get a blocker. But now that Chopper Porsche package is in, most decks don't even run Queen at this point. All right, 8k lead. Gonna go ahead and give him a 1k, and then another. So just kind of like as I expected, like talking through the last turn, is my opponent's just gonna commit their whole turn to just swinging 3 8ks, and I'm just gonna counter out of those. So still at 1. We're at 1 life here, which is just like a little scary. Don't have another Newgate in sight at this point. We do pick up a Radical Beam, which is pretty nice, right? Radical Beam is going to allow me to go up to 10k to get out of a potential attack. But my opponent is going to have some swings next turn. Opponent's going to go up to 9 Dawn, and he really just needs 1k on each of these, right? That's kind of the downside to Luffy sometimes, is Luffy's hands get small, and the opponent can just takes some hits. All right, we're going to go ahead and play out a Dragon here. Dragon's going to attach 2 Dawn to something. We're going to attach 2 Dawn to Newgate for free. So Newgate's ability requires you to have 2 Dawn attached to it. So nice little combo there with Dragon, being able to slap two counters on there. I think what I'm going to do this turn likely is I have two decisions. I either go for board to try to and ensure that I don't die next turn, and then try to go for the game the next turn, or I try to go for game. And I think right now my answer is to definitely go for board, because I am very afraid of dying. I don't have, like, I have a Radical Beam in hand. That's it. So the opponent's likely going to kill me here. So we're going to use Newgate, clean up Chopper, clean up each EG. We're going to attach 1 Dawn. We're going to swing 7k into Reiju. Opponent only has 1 card in hand, I believe. So, like, a lot of those attacks are free. And then we're going to use the Dragon to swing at life. I'm sitting now. There are 3 attackers on board. I have 1 life, a blocker, and a Radical Beam. If my opponent decides to try to go for game here, I can get out of it. And then likely what I could try to do is go for game on the flip side here, because I have a Newgate, I have a Dragon, I have a Gear 5 Luffy in hand, which basically nets me 2 more additional attacks. Gear 5 is just absolutely insane in this deck. People forget, honestly. People forget about Gear 5 Luffy. Gear 5 Luffy wins games. So yeah, so it looks like opponent's doing exactly what I kind of expected. Opponent's gonna go and swing 8k. I'm gonna take it. It's another counterless card, which is unfortunately one of the pitfalls of this deck as well, is we have a lot of boss monsters, so we don't have too much counter. And that's one thing I'm like trying to tweak with like potential deckless iterations, especially going to 08, because I think this deck's gonna be pretty solid in 08. Opponent's gonna go ahead and swing 8k again. I'm like, this is your mistake. We're gonna Radical Beam. We're gonna go up to 10. And then now opponent has a decision. Do they swing 8k again and I just use my blocker, right? Or do they instead like play a Reiju or something to like get some counter in hand, likely. So opponent's discarding a card, using the stage to try to find something. And like I'm in this decision on my side. So with Red Purple Luffy, you kind of have to make the choice of like, when do I start pushing face? When do I control the board? And I kind of made the conscious decision last turn to control the board, so I ensured I didn't set myself for a lethal situation from my opponent's side. Obviously, if we saw in a Chiji, maybe the math would have been a little different. But ultimately, I made the right choice last turn to survive. And then hopefully, basically what I can do is kind of get out of the game here, right? Hopefully the goal is to try to just swing enough to be able to kill, because I think next turn I can go 9k, 10k, play Gear 5. Yeah, that's assuming attack. So he does end up stacking all on, and I just get the Sanji. So Sanji's out of the equation for this turn. So basically what I could do this turn is we could go, we start with a 9k, and then go with a 10k, and then Gear 5 Luffy. And then because I'm at 0 Dawn, I can activate Luffy's leader effect, which would take me up to 2 Dawn, right? Because then I can activate Gear 5 Luffy's effect, which would take me up to 2 Dawn. Attach 1, swing 7. So we're going to start with a 9, right? Taking with 4 cards in hand. We're going to go with a 10. Now, the fact that he took that so quickly honestly makes me think that maybe he doesn't have the counter to potentially get out of like these huge swings here. But opponent's thinking here, they grab their whole hand for a second, which pretty much tells me that they might counter out, and they do. They counter out a full sweep here from the hand. Then we're going to drop the Gear 5 Luffy here. And yeah, this pretty much seals the game at this point, because I'm going to be able to use my leader effect, go up a Dawn, and then use Luffy's effect to go up another Dawn. We're going to go 7k lead. Opponent has no cards in hand. He has to take that. We're going to go ahead and go to my second turn here. We'll go up to 4 Dawn here. We can also just use Luffy's ability to go up to 5 here, which is still 4 active. And then we're going to go ahead and swing 10 at lead here. Opponent has to take it. And then we'll go 12 at lead, which is definitely going to finish up the game here. And that is Red Purple Luffy taking out Reiju. That game was honestly a little hard. If Reiju saw more Ichijis, that game potentially would have been over for me. So it's a little bit of a difficult matchup here. But I saw the white beard when I needed to. And I saw the Gear 5 exactly when I needed to as well. And with that in mind, thanks everybody for watching. And we'll catch you in the next video.